Okay, I will call to order the regularly scheduled zoning hearing board meeting for September 26th. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have solicitor announcements.
Good evening, everyone. Couple of announcements. The board met in executive session prior to the meeting tonight to discuss questions of law related to the applications. As for meeting procedures, there are two ways for the public to participate in this evening's hearing. The first is at the end of each hearing, we'll provide an opportunity for public comment. Anybody may come up at that time and offer a statement in support or opposition of the application, provide your reasons. The other way to participate is called party status. Party status is appropriate if you feel that you are particularly affected by the application, you live next door or in close proximity, or have some other type of interest that the application affects. If that's the case, you will have the opportunity to participate fully in the hearing, including asking questions of the witnesses, presenting evidence of your own, presenting testimony, receive a copy of the decision of the board, and have the right to take an appeal to the Court of Common Pleas if you disagree with the board's decision. If you plan on taking party status for a particular application, there are party status request forms up on the front table that we would ask you to fill out in advance. And what that does is it gives me your name and contact information so that I can recognize you and include you in the decision and any filings that may happen on this matter. That should be it.
Okay, so we will move on to our hearings. Our first hearing is 9-1 of 23, application of Cavco Company LLC for a variance from section 550-22D3 to permit outdoor dining accessory to the drive-through/takeout only restaurant, a variance from section 550-33D22D to permit the service loading area to be visible from the public street, and a variance from section 550-34G to permit a loading area to be visible from the public street. The property is situated at 884 South State Road in Upper Darby, PA. It's in the C2 Commercial District and in the 3rd Council District.
So I guess a little housekeeping.
Would you
Ms.
prefer
Farrell,
us
you
over
can have
there?
your witness sit in this first seat over here as long as he can pull the microphone up to him so that the court reporter can hear. I would ask you to please still speak very loudly. Bridget will tell you if you're not loud enough. Are you using boards? Do you have an easel?
We
or-
have paper copies as well as packet form for the board to make it a little bit easier.
So before you begin, the board will enter the following exhibits. ZHB1 will be the application packet. ZHB2 will be the notice photos, and ZHB3 will be the proof of publication. Before we, two other items, is there anybody requesting party status for this application at 1884 South State?
Yes, Colleen Morsini, on behalf of Upper Darby Township.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Farrell, tonight, as you can see, we only have a two-member board this evening. So as you know, any ties will go against the application. Are you prepared to proceed this evening with the two-member board?
We would like to proceed this evening. We would like to reserve the right to continue the hearing should we decide that that's necessary.
Sure. With that, I guess, is there any other party status? I didn't see anybody else, just to double check. All right, Ms. Farrell, you can proceed with your case in
Okay.
chief.
I'm going to hand up exhibit packets if I might.
Thank you.
exhibit packet? All right. And good evening, everybody. As Mr. Heleniak indicated, I'm Amy Farrell with Kaplan Stewart. We are the attorneys for the applicant. In this case, the applicant is the property owner. This is the property at State Road and Lansdowne Avenue at the intersection of the Bond Shopping Center that was previously a gasoline service station, which has been vacant for some time now. This board may recall in 2021, we appeared before a slightly different, I think, version of this board seeking relief related to a proposed Starbucks restaurant with drive-through. And I just want to note, the use itself is permitted in this zoning district, as you'll hear from our engineer in a moment. This is the C2 zoning district, and drive-through restaurants are permitted by right. So the application that was before the board in 2021 was not for the use. It was specifically for a variance related to outdoor dining and a variance related to the location of the pickup window, which at that point in time, the drive-through pickup window, at that point in time was facing State Road. Those variances were granted at the time. There have been, since then, some changes in Starbucks delivery model, particularly with this type of site and a site of this size and in this general location. And as you'll hear from our witness in a moment, the proposal now is for a drive-through only rather than any sort of interior seating associated with the Starbucks. Again, drive-through restaurant and in fact a takeout only restaurant are both permitted by right in this zoning district. So we're not here tonight with a request with respect to the use itself. The request again has to do with the outdoor dining area. There is a patio and a walk-up window proposed at this location, which does require relief if there were to be any outdoor dining there. Again, the same variance that was granted the last time. By virtue of some configuration changes to the building, we no longer require relief related to the drive-through pickup window, as you will hear from our engineer. That pickup window is no longer facing State Road. What we will require relief from, and which was indicated in the chair's summary, is a variance to permit the service and loading area to be visible from the public street. And that really has to do with kind of the configuration of this property and there not really being another place to locate it. I have handed up to the board pre-marked exhibit packets. Those exhibits are marked applicants 1 through 6, and we'll be using those and referring to those as we move through our testimony this evening. I would note, just for housekeeping purposes, that applicants 1 is a copy of the application and deed as submitted. So that's a duplicate of board exhibit 1. But since it's already in our packet, we'll just go ahead and call it applicants 1. With that, then, I would introduce Wayne Kiefer and ask that he be sworn.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Can you spell your last name, please?
Kiefer, K-I-E-F-E-R,
And Wayne, if you could please your business address for the record.
116 East Butler Pike, East Butler Avenue, Chalfont, PA.
And can you describe just briefly for the board your educational and professional background?
Majored in civil engineering at Drexel University, 30-plus years of experience and a licensed PE in the state of Pennsylvania.
And you were the engineer on this project in 2021 when we appeared before this board?
Yes,
And you prepared the plans then and again prepared the plans this time?
yes,
And at applicants A2, we have a copy of your CV. Is that a current summary of your professional qualifications?
yes, it is.
Excuse me. And when we were here in 2021, you were qualified as an expert in civil engineering in this matter, is that
Yes.
right? We would be seeking the same expert qualifications again for Mr. Kiefer.
I have no objection, any of the parties.
We'll accept him as a, oh,
I have no objection. I'm sorry.
Sorry
I have no
about that.
objection.
That's okay.
well, you'll be accepted as an expert.
Great. Now, Wayne, your firm prepared the plans both in 2021 and the current plans, right?
Correct.
And you're generally familiar with those plans?
Yes,
Are you also generally familiar with the property in question and the
Yes.
surrounding area? Okay, turning to applicants 3, in the pre-marked exhibit packet is a short slide deck, 3 sheets long, depicting some of the existing conditions of the property. And if you could, just referencing those images as you move through them, please, describe generally for the board the property and the surrounding conditions.
3.1 is an overall aerial of the area. You can see the entire Bond Shopping Center, which spans both sides of State Road and runs behind the site. To the right, looking at the property from Lansdowne, is the high school.
And if you could then, turning to the second sheet, A32, 3.2, which is a slightly closer aerial of the property, can you just describe generally the existing property itself, please?
As you can see, this part of the property is dominated by the existing canopy that was over the gas pumps and store. There are 4 driveways onto the 2 roads, 2 onto Lansdowne, 2 onto State, and approximately 5 parking spaces on the property.
Are there any stormwater management improvements to your knowledge
were
on
not.
site?
Wait until she's done asking the questions.
Sorry.
And with respect to the corner with, as it relates to the balance of the shopping center, can you just speak a little bit to, there is no interior connection between the corner parcel and the adjoining property, correct? Or
The existing gas station in this property is part of a 1.8 acre property that includes the strip center that, from this view, is behind the existing gas station. So the property extends up State Road behind the gas station.
is there a physical connection between?
No, there's not. There's about a 4-foot grade difference between the remaining part of the property and the existing gas station.
Okay. And then finally, with respect to the third images, A3.3, any other information that you can provide with respect to the existing conditions?
Only that these are older street views. The bottom one does show the pumps removed. The site is currently fenced in.
And it's been vacant for some time, is that right?
Yes,
And what is the current zoning designation for the property?
it is C2.
C2. Now, as I indicated in my opening, and as the board, I think, may recall, this property was initially approved in 2021 for a Starbucks drive-through restaurant at this location. And we have marked at applicants 4 and applicants 5 the zoning decision and the associated plan that went with it in 2021. And if you could, I think with particular focus on the plan, which is at A5.1 and A5.2, could you just describe generally what was proposed and approved in 2021?
So the building was approximately 2,400 square feet, included a drive-through, a walk-up window, and interior seating. There are approximately 22 parking spaces associated with the site and a stacking lane for 10 cars.
Now, you indicated on in your summary of the existing conditions that there were 4 existing curb cuts on the property currently. Those were to be modified as part of the
Right.
2021
This, we would
relief.
eliminate 2 of the curb cuts, the 2 closest to the intersection, and modify the other 2 remaining curb cuts.
Now, as I indicated earlier, and just to confirm for the board, am I correct, as summarized in applicants 4, that the relief granted in 2021 was a variance to permit outdoor dining, a variance to permit the pickup window to face State Road, and a variance to permit some internal pedestrian circulation as shown in lieu of some other pedestrian requirements?
Correct. The pedestrian circulation dealt mostly with the north side of the property or the State Road side of the property, where we had parking on that side, but no sidewalk adjacent to the building because that was the drive-through lane.
Now, obviously, this project was not completed in 2021, or we wouldn't be here this evening. Can you just discuss generally what the major changes between the 2021 project and the current proposal?
Starbucks came back to Kravco and said they wanted to go with a drive-through only model, that they were trending in that direction.
Okay. And do you have a general understanding from those conversations as to why Starbucks is moving towards the drive-through only model, and whether that's specific to this site or overall?
We were dealing with the store development manager for Northeast for Starbucks, and he said there was something they were developing throughout the Northeast. I think from what he said, a lot of it was pushed by COVID and pushed up the time frame of people not getting out of their cars. They're ordering on the app, they're staying through the drive-through and not going into the stores.
In addition to that, then, were there any specific localized issues or concerns related to this site?
We've discussed with Starbucks and with the township, some of the ongoing issues with closing some of the stores during the middle of the day. They've had some issues with people in the stores. And that's not specific to Starbucks. It deals with the rest of the shopping center also.
And to be clear, there is an existing Starbucks already in this
Yes.
center, right?
If you went back to the other exhibit, it's the end unit up State Road from the gas station.
And the intent is for that to relocate to the corner?
Yes.
Um,
There is no drive-through up there right now, so they're looking for their drive-through.
Okay, so they're looking to relocate, to stay in the township, but relocate to a spot where they can actually have a drive-through?
Yes.
Okay. And as a result of some of these sort of development model shifts that you were discussing with Starbucks, they are trending towards these drive-through only configurations in certain situations, right?
Yes.
Now, understanding that they are still developing at some sites a more traditional drive-through that folks might be used to, that has interior seating, did you discuss with Starbucks whether that was an option at this location any longer?
We did. Starbucks actually drove the change. After we received the zoning relief last time, we had submitted full land development plans, appeared before the planning commission. We were moving forward with the project when Starbucks put the brakes on it and said, no, we need to change the model.
Okay. And did they give any indication as to whether or not they would consider an alternative at this site other than the drive-through only?
My understanding from my talks with them and Kravko's talks with them is they would not move forward with the model previously shown.
Okay, so the only model or development model that Starbucks would consider at this site, as far as you understand it, is the drive-through only?
Correct.
Now, at applicant's A6, we have provided a 3-sheet plan set that was submitted with the zoning application that's prepared by Showalter Associates and is dated July 11th of 2023. And as just a general matter, if you could explain, sort of just run through what is proposed here, and particularly what's the same as the last time versus what's changed as a result of the model change, please.
We stick with the the 2 curb cuts for driveways. The building has reduced to about 50% of the size. It's about just over 1,200 square feet now. In turn, we've also reduced the parking from over 20 spaces down to 10 spaces. By reducing the size of everything else on the site, we were able to address some of the comments that were brought up by the township during the land development review. We've provided a full bypass lane throughout the whole entire site, and we're providing the loading area that was not previously shown on the plans.
And in terms of the number of cars that can be queued, did that also increase?
Yes, we went from 10 cars to 17.
Now, the prior plan had some amenities that the township had requested, the outdoor patio area, bike racks, some pedestrian connectivity. Were you able to carry those things forward here?
Yes, and in fact, we expanded the pedestrian connectivity. The previous plan had one sidewalk connection right near the driveway on Lansdowne. By eliminating the parking on the exterior of the site, where we're able to provide 2 sidewalk connections closer to the intersection and not cutting across a drive-through lane or through parking.
Okay, so under the prior plan, there was a pedestrian connection only from Lansdowne Avenue, is that right?
Correct. To the far south end of the site.
Okay, we were able to adjust the location of that one,
Correct.
and then you also were able to add pedestrian connectivity directly from State Road as well?
Correct.
Okay. And then you mentioned it previously, and obviously this isn't the land development component, but there is no stormwater management currently on site. That will obviously change as well.
Yes.
Now, finally, the use itself, the drive-through restaurant or takeout only, is permitted in the C2 district. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, with respect to the drive-through use, there are certain design standards under 550-22F that must be satisfied. So let's just run through those to confirm that we meet them if we could. 22F1A requires a minimum stacking space for 5 vehicles per stacking lane. How many stacking lanes do you have
We're providing 17 stacking spaces.
in?
One lane, 17 spaces.
Okay, so one lane where you would have technically only had to provide 5 under the ordinance, we're providing 17?
Correct.
Okay. 22F1B requires that the stacking lanes are designed and maintained so as not to interfere with the safe movement of on and off-site vehicular and pedestrian traffic. It's kind of a general standard there. But in your opinion, can you describe just generally how it is that you believe we meet that requirement?
The drive-through lane is surrounding the proposed building and parking. There are no crossing of incoming or outgoing traffic. Once you pull into the site, you can pull into the stacking lane and remain there. There's not a cross of traffic except where the parking lot is. There's a small area that's hatched out where it's the only place there would be conflicts within the drive-through lane.
Okay. Under 22F1C, a drive-through window is required to face only the rear or the side yard. Now, as I had previously indicated, we had sought relief from that provision and received relief from that provision in 2021. Am I correct? We no longer need that relief?
No, we don't. And that is due to the change in the parking configuration. Without the parking along the state road side, we're able to shift the drive-through window to the back.
Okay. Now, with respect to the relief that is specifically required in connection with this proposal, as you heard, and as you certainly have identified on your plans, the first was a variance to permit the outdoor patio or dining as accessory to a drive-through. Now, with respect to this request to permit outdoor dining at this location, we did previously receive that relief in 2021?
Yes,
Okay. And just to be clear, the outdoor dining is permitted in connection with a sit-down restaurant, but because this is a drive-through restaurant, both in 2021 and now, the relief is required. Is that right?
that is correct.
Okay. Now, there are certain requirements for outdoor dining related to a sit-down restaurant. Is it your understanding that Starbucks will meet those requirements?
Yes.
And can you just generally run through those provisions, please?
The type of furniture that's permitted, the quality of the furniture permitted, furniture being taken in during non-used hours.
And will the patio itself be generally separated and defined from the surrounding circulation areas by curbing, sidewalking, landscaping, and the like?
Yes, there's a landscape island on the state road side of the patio area and a railing on the drive-through pickup window side.
Okay. Now, given that the board previously granted that outdoor dining variance, I think we can presume that they found the grant of the variance was justified in 2021. In your professional opinion, is there anything different here that would change that analysis or determination?
Now, both models had a walk-up window, which the outdoor seating was geared towards.
Now, with respect to the service and loading areas being visible from the public street, that's 2 variance requests, 2 different sections, but the same level of, or the same type of relief that's being sought, right?
Correct.
And can you just generally describe for the board what is required there and why that relief is necessary?
A two-part answer. One, the previous plan did not show any kind of loading area. Starbucks has told us that they don't need that spot, but it is a township requirement. It came up during the land development application. As I said, with the smaller store and smaller parking area, we are able to provide it at this time. The location, being on a corner, obviously we have 2 front yards. So that takes 1 yard away from the possibility of where it can be. Also, due to the nature of the use of the site, it really can't be between the store and the drive-through lane because people need to be able to reach the menu and need to reach the drive-through window. If I flipped it to the outside of the drive-through lane, it would push the driveways closer to the existing intersection, which is against what we were trying to do here. The other thing I should mention is the way the ordinance is written, it's a general loading requirement that it's not visible. There are no loading docks here. There's no overhead doors. This is simply a space for a delivery truck to stop out of the way of traffic.
Okay. And that loading area is immediately adjacent to the trash and recycling area, right? So
Correct.
you've consolidated those two together.
Yes.
And will those be appropriately screened in terms of an enclosure?
The trash enclosure will have a solid fence around it, and there will be landscaping provided around the trash enclosure and in the green areas of the site.
And the loading and service area, I think to your point, that there's no loading docks or anything like that. This is just a striped area for a loading vehicle to pull up, correct?
Correct.
So if somebody was driving by on the roadway, does it look any different than the rest of the parking lot?
No.
Now, with respect to both aspects of relief that have been requested here this evening, in your professional opinion, is the grant of the variances, necessary for the reasonable use of the property?
Yes.
And can you just describe just generally why you think that's the case?
Because of the use of the drive-through, our best design is to consolidate everything in the center of the site, which pushes the loading area to the front.
And in your professional opinion, will the grant of the variances create any detrimental impact on the general health, safety, and welfare of the public?
No. I believe there's other locations with outdoor seating. It's the same type of use in that whole area. It's a large commercial area with drive-throughs, with takeout-only restaurants. It fits the surrounding area.
And in your professional opinion, will the grant of the variances in any way alter the character of the neighborhood?
No, for the same reasons I just said.
In your professional opinion, are the variances as requested the minimum necessary to grant relief?
Yes,
And again, as you indicated, you did look at other configurations here.
right. And trying to balance the safety of pedestrians, traffic, internal and external.
In your professional opinion, and I think you've alluded to some of this already, but is the property subject to unique physical circumstances or conditions which create the hardship here?
And the two biggest things are, one being in a corner, it eliminates one of the rear side yards. It's also because of the grade differences between the rest of the shopping center. So there's about a 4-foot grade there. So it's very difficult to get connectivity through there. To the south is the high school, and there's at least a 15-foot grade difference between the existing gas station and the high school.
And in your professional opinion, are the variances necessary to allow reasonable use of the property?
Yes,
And do you believe this hardship has been created by the applicant?
no,
It's a result of the property? Okay. And overall, just from a general health, safety, and welfare perspective, do you have an opinion as to this overall development in general and what it's providing versus what's there today?
I think eliminating the two driveways at the intersection is very helpful. From my understanding is there are a lot of pedestrians in the area because it is so close to the high school and the remaining part of the shopping center. This will increase the safety at that corner to what is there now.
I have no additional questions at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Marcini?
Initially, I want to say, Township really loves Starbucks. They're excited to work with you. They, in fact, were working with you up until a point. I think you had several meetings with them. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we had met somewhere during COVID because we Zoomed quite
Yes.
a bit. And as I said, we did attend one planning commission meeting, and we had another meeting with staff
Yeah.
sometime after that.
And they had suggested to you what changes they would like to see to enable this to be effective for the township.
We
didn't
talked
they?
about a couple of different scenarios, yes.
But then you stopped meeting with them and just dropped the zoning application.
Objection. I have a question first. Is the township opposing this application?
Yes.
Was there a vote at a council meeting with respect to opposition? Because we have not been advised of any opposition.
I'm sorry you weren't advised of any opposition.
Was there a vote at a council meeting?
Am I required to respond to questions by council?
I mean, my role is not to be a referee between
Okay.
the two of you. The township has statutory standing to participate in zoning hearings as to whether council properly authorized the solicitor to attend. That's not something that we police.
I don't think it's an unfair question to know when council voted to oppose the application, but
No,
Moving
it
on.
may be fair, but I don't know where the statute requires council to vote, and they've never voted before on when there's opposition to a application.
I- I-
If you want to oppose
Ms.
standing,
Marcy,
that could be another issue.
I don't think it's appropriate to go into this on the record in this venue. Ms. Farrell, I mean, you can explore those issues, I think, outside of the confines of this hearing, but I'll allow Ms. Marcini to continue with her cross-examination of your witness.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. When was a decision made to stop communicating with the administration?
Objection.
I haven't
What is
finished this-
the,
I can I
what
finish
is the
this- can I
relevance
finish
of
the question?
communication?
I should be allowed to finish the question.
Okay.
That would be fair.
Good. Let's finish the question. Go ahead.
When was the decision made to stop discussing changes with the administration and to file the zoning application?
And I'm going to object as to relevance.
What,
Well, they decided to make a change. They were working with the administration and never gave any opportunity to make any other changes. This could have been worked out before this application was filed.
And again, I'm going to raise the same objection.
Okay.
I'm gonna allow the witness to answer the question, but I will note that I'm not seeing how conversations with staff are relevant to the relief requested here.
Well, it was
So,
meetings with the mayor. So it was
That's
a meeting with
fine, whether it's the
administration.
mayor or staff, there's still variances requested. We're here on the merits of the hardship of the variances.
Thank you.
But you, sir,
Wayne,
Mr.
if you
Kiefer, can you
know-
answer the question as to when the decision was made to change course?
One is the design engineer. I really didn't make that decision. I think it was, the application was submitted in August, I believe. So it was either late July or early August that the decision was made to move forward with the model that Starbucks preferred.
Okay. And the initial approval that you had for the zoning was for a restaurant, is that correct? Not just drive-through, a restaurant with a drive-through, is that correct?
It was drive-through, walk-up, and internal seating.
Right. More like a restaurant.
Objection as to the qualification. It's defined in the ordinance as a drive-through restaurant.
Okay, wait, that's fine.
I have the ordinance.
Would both parties stipulate that the previous relief referenced this permitted use as it was outdoor dining accessory to a restaurant with a drive-through?
Correct. And I would note that it's the same subsection of relief this time. We needed relief.
That, I do know that the application indicates, I think it's 550 D3, which is outdoor dining to a takeout-only restaurant, drive-through takeout restaurant. That's on the zoning application.
So the question was whether there was a change in the type of restaurant to which the
Yes.
outdoor dining was accessory to?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's a fair question.
And Wayne, if you know.
I'm not even sure what the question is at this point, sorry. The change was from a drive-through restaurant to a takeout only.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, since you are the expert in this area, you did indicate that outdoor dining is permitted. There's certain requirements, as you testified to, and you testified that Starbucks intends to comply with all those requirements, correct?
Yes,
That's including the outdoor furnishings,
yes,
and those furnishings are required to be brought in at night, correct?
correct.
And you're indicating to me that the building that you are creating will have adequate storage to bring this furniture back inside.
That is my understanding
Understanding from where?
from Starbucks.
Okay, but you have no other opinion, you have no other information on that, other than what you've been told?
Correct. I'm assuming it would be put in the lease by our client.
But you have no information on that, right?
No,
Okay.
I did not work on the lease.
Okay, okay. It also indicates that planters, posts, ropes, and other enclosures will be put up to encourage a use as a defining area for the cafe. Is that also, that's also in the plans?
It's defined by the landscape area to the state road side and the railing to the drive-through side.
Okay. And it also indicates there's going to be adequate, outdoor dining areas may not obstruct pedestrian traffic flow. And the minimum pathway, at least 3 feet free of obstacles, shall be maintained. Is that also in your plans?
Yes,
Okay. And I note from your plans that the walk-up is actually at the furthest end of the Starbucks. Would that be fair to say?
it's on the state road side. I don't,
Okay, so the path to that walk-up is through the parking lot, is that correct?
yes, there's a sidewalk and crosswalk that crosses through the drive aisle, the parking area to the patio.
But there will be cars flowing throughout that entire area.
Yes,
So there's cars flowing through that area, and there's going to be a walkway for the pedestrians to traverse?
yes, same as most commercial sites.
Okay, now you indicated that you also, did you do a traffic study?
No,
This is not the appropriate venue for a traffic study.
Just
There
asking.
will be a land development.
one will be
submission.
required by PennDOT at
All
some
right.
point.
Well, have you been there to see the pedestrian flow through that area?
I've been to the site several times over the past 5 years.
So you have seen the pedestrian flow through that area?
Yes,
And in fact, the pedestrian flow is one of the reasons why you're changing to a drive-through, correct?
no,
Well, you indicated that you have patrons that tend to, what did you say? You changed it because of the patrons tend to linger in the stores.
I don't think I used that words, but
Let me see. I'm sorry, correct me. You said you changed the model because you had issues with people in stores.
no, they changed the model at Starbucks' request. One of the issues has also been patrons at the property.
Did you do any investigation to determine if that was accurate?
We've spoken with Starbucks, the property owner, and township staff about it.
Okay, you also indicated that there's a drive-through model is developing, that's their model throughout the Northeast?
It is one of their models.
Okay, can you tell me where else you have a drive-through Starbucks in the vicinity of this location?
No, it's a newer model. The last time we spoke with Starbucks, they didn't have data on any of those models yet.
Okay, now you indicated this drive-through is necessary for the use of the property. You telling me that property cannot be used for anything else other than a drive-through?
I'm going to object again here. The application that's before this board is not about the drive-through restaurant. A drive-through restaurant is permitted in this zoning district. If she has questions with respect to the outdoor dining or the location of the loading, which are the only two requests before this board, those are appropriate. But questions about why Starbucks decided on a drive-through and whether or not a drive-through should be allowed here are inappropriate. It's a permitted use in this district.
Respectfully, I'm answering questions based upon testimony that was presented. This is proper cross-examination. This witness clearly said it fits the surrounding area. He also said it's necessary for the use of the property. That's what this witness said. I should have the right to question that. I don't know why I'm being limited.
Understood. You can continue.
Okay. You indicate it's necessary for the use of the property. You telling me there's nothing else you can put on that property?
It doesn't require loading, not according to the ordinance.
Well, you did have approval for a Starbucks restaurant, didn't
No,
you?
no. We
No?
never received approval.
You got the zoning approval.
We didn't have site approval. We've received variances for outdoor seating, for the location of the drive-through window, and for pedestrian circulation. We never have received approval from the township for a Starbucks.
Was there a request made to the township for a Starbucks?
Yes,
Okay, I'm confused because I thought that you had the zoning for that. Didn't you have the zoning? I'm so confused.
We're not suggesting we didn't have zoning.
Okay.
I think what he's suggesting is that it never completed the land development process. So when you talk about an
Oh, I
approval for a
apologize. You're
Starbucks,
right. I
that's the
apologize.
land
You
development.
didn't complete the land use.
correct.
Okay. But when you say that the only use for this property is a drive-through, that's not necessarily accurate because you could have had a restaurant with interior seating.
I'm going to renew and at least request a standing objection with respect to this line of questioning.
Well-
The drive-through restaurant is permitted on this site, period, end of story.
I'm not objecting to that. The problem is they're saying nothing else can be on this property. They're asking for a dimensional variance, I think.
We're asking for a variance with respect to outdoor seating and the location of the loading area, not as to whether or not anything else could be constructed here as a drive-through or other type of restaurant.
But one of the hardships is that nothing else can be on the property, even for dimensional variance. And this gentleman testified. He said it was necessary for the use of the property.
I understand that you're walking through the hardship factor here, but yes, we're not, the property can be used for a drive-through. Whether or not it has outdoor seating is kind of the question at hand here. I would just keep it germane to the relief
I'll
request.
try and stay away from the testimony that he already gave.
Objection.
He gave the testimony, I didn't. Frustrating. Okay, let's talk
I
about
would
the
agree about
seating.
that.
So tell me, so the outdoor seating, what kind of outdoor seating are you going to have?
Chairs and tables?
What kind? How are they made? Are they portable? Are they movable? What?
They're movable and portable because they need to be brought in at night.
Are you going to have heaters?
I do not know.
How many chairs and tables do you tend to have?
I do not know.
Wasn't that relevant to how you're going to configure the space?
I don't think so.
Okay. So how many planters and posts do you intend to have?
There's no planters proposed right now. There's a landscaped area. The only post would be associated with the railing.
Okay, how is the area going to be landscaped?
It will probably be a planting bed
Do you
with
have,
shrubs and flowers.
do you have a landscape design? Do you have
No,
anything to
we have
show
not,
us?
we have not approached the land development process yet.
I'm not, no, you're asking for outdoor dining. I'm asking for the configuration of the outdoor dining. And you can't tell me how many tables or chairs there are going to be?
Once again,
This is absolutely relevant.
I think we're a little premature, however. There's a multi-step process here. There's the question of whether or not this board, which previously granted outdoor dining in connection with a drive-through restaurant at this very site, can make a general determination that the applicant meets the general requirements of the ordinance at the point of zoning. At the point at which a building permit is pulled, after land development approval, there would be a layout shown for tables and chairs and how that'll, just like the interior of a restaurant would be if you had interior seating.
Ms. Farrell, we'll note the standing objection, and you'll have the opportunity to redirect to address any finer points with your witness. But since outdoor dining is the one of the three variances requested, or I'll say two, because the other two are interrelated, I'm going to allow Ms. Marcini to continue, but we'll note the objection for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you. One moment, thank you.
Sure.
And nothing else, thank you. Thank you for your patience.
So before you redirect, I'll let the board ask some questions
Sure.
so that then we can go through the cycle again.
Kyle, what's the questions?
Okay, I have a couple questions. In relations to the outdoor dining, actually, I guess there's just, let me start with one general question. The owner and applicant for this is Starbucks, correct?
No,
No, so it's
it's Kravco,
Kravco.
which is the managing
Kravco.
member of the owner.
Okay. And Kravco's, the plan changed because of basically Starbucks saying that they would not consider the prior plan.
Correct.
Okay. So, I guess I'm going to reiterate some questions. And I guess I just wanted a little bit more clarification on the outdoor seating in relations to how it currently is worded in our zoning code. Under section D3, outdoor dining is permitted as an accessory use to a full-service sit-down restaurant only and subject to the following requirements. I understand in the prior zoning relief that was granted, that it was in association to a takeout restaurant with indoor seating in the original application.
I believe it was as a drive-through restaurant, not.
And restaurant with indoor seating. It was an and, right?
Correct. So right. So we're not suggesting that there wasn't indoor seating in the prior application. We're just being a little careful with the wording here because of the definitions in the ordinance. So your ordinance when it talks about drive-through restaurant, doesn't say indoor, outdoor, or otherwise. Where the outdoor comes into play is your ordinance does specifically say that outdoor is permitted in connection with a sit-down restaurant.
Correct.
So even under the last relief, because it was a drive-through, we needed relief then, just like we need relief now. So it's the same characterization of the
Yeah.
same use definition. I just want to
Well,
be clear about
yes.
that.
And I guess, just to go on that, the conditions of which the prior variance and exception was granted was conditional on the plan that did have indoor seating.
That's correct.
Okay, so this plan changed from having no indoor seating now.
Correct.
Okay, and that came from Starbucks, that they would no longer consider any type of restaurant or drive-through restaurant, sorry, let me use my terminology correctly, would not consider a drive-through restaurant in this location without any indoor, or with indoor seating, sorry.
Correct. Starbucks indicated they would not consider indoor seating at this location.
Okay. In reference to the trash enclosure, now looking at the plan, I noticed on the adjacent, I mean, this is all technically the same property, but on the adjacent side where the existing shopping center is, on the State Road side, there's a trash enclosure that is on the interior arch end of that, kind of towards where the tennis courts are.
Correct.
What was the reason for not putting the trash enclosure there? Like, what specifically about that location, which would have made it in compliance with the zoning code, is incompatible with the existing, with putting a trash enclosure there?
I'm not sure, just to be clear, and I think Greg may have been making the same
The trash
qualification.
enclosure is part of the relief.
No, I know. I was asking about that specific variance because I'm establishing hardship on that. Why it has to be in the center.
The trash enclosure isn't part of the requested variance.
Oh,
It's
isn't that
the-
what the?
It's two sections related to the loading zone.
Yeah, it's,
Oh,
it's,
sorry,
the-
sorry,
again, the ordinance
sorry.
is
I
worded a
thought
little
the refuse
oddly.
area was in reference, sorry.
But
My
these happen to be
apologies.
next to each other.
No, okay, sorry. I retract that.
There's
That's my apologies.
There's also about a 5-foot grade change between this site and and where the trash
Gotcha.
enclosure is.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Sorry, that's my bad. Okay, but then I guess my returning question to this outdoor dining. Is there any more detail that you can provide specifically from Starbucks other than it's just an internal decision that they made as to the reason why they would not allow indoor seating? Because looking at the application, you meet every other zoning code. You meet the what is it? The queue. You meet parking. You're actually over the parking requirement by double. You're almost twice the amount with the driving lane. I guess my question is, or the queue, sorry.
Right, over 3 times.
Yes. I guess my question is, what about this property in particular does not allow for indoor dining to make it in compliance with the existing outdoor dining zoning code?
Well, I think they're 2 separate issues. The indoor design, the lack of indoor seating is based on a Starbucks
Correct.
model.
Correct. I was wondering if there were any more
The
details.
outdoor
they had.
seating is basically for the walk-up window and the pedestrian traffic in the area. That was one of the things I think we were asked for the last time we met with the township. There was a major push for pedestrian walk-up service. And that is what we're doing here in keeping the walk-up window and some seating adjacent to that walk-up window.
I guess my concern and worry is that the initial proposal and this proposal have changed in a way that the initial variance was granted under the expectation that it would have some form of inside seating, which therefore the variance was granted with the intention of being a most conservative exception to the rule. My concern is, and I guess where I'm going to leave you an open space to elaborate if you have any more details, this would be asking for a drive-through only specific facility with no indoor dining, which is different from the original proposal, and asking for it to override the existing zoning code, which says only full-service sit-down.
So I'm gonna, I just want to try one more time because I don't think I'm being clear. And I think that's on me. We need the same relief now that we needed under the last application. And it's not about whether or not there's indoor dining, right? So your ordinance has what's called a full-service sit-down restaurant, which is different than a drive-through restaurant. And a full-service sit-down restaurant is permitted outdoor dining. If it's a drive-through restaurant, you have to get a variance. Whether you have indoor dining or you don't, it's a drive-through restaurant, right? So the variance last time is the same as the variance this time with respect to that outdoor dining. It's still a drive-through. We just don't have the indoor component of it. Now, I will also say that as Wayne indicated, the primary intention here is that walk-up window and the patio area that goes along with that. That hasn't really changed from the last application. The addition of outdoor dining was, as Wayne indicated, at the request of some prior discussions with the township the last time. If the tenor of the township, based on Ms. Marcini's questions and some of the questions we're hearing from the board, is that they don't want outdoor dining, you could deny the outdoor dining variance. That doesn't change otherwise the configuration of this site in terms of the drive-through only aspect, if that helps sort of clarify that distinction.
No, I definitely understand.
I think what Mr. McIntyre is asking, if I can paraphrase, is looking at the hardship criteria and the minimum relief necessary from the standard of the ordinance to provide reasonable use of the property in relation to outdoor dining. I believe Mr. McIntyre is looking at it as outdoor seating is associated when you have indoor seating when a full-service restaurant, and you're eliminating that kind of coupling.
Right, no, and I
Okay.
understand where he's
But
going
it's,
with
I
that.
think it's
also-
related to that prong of the hardship test.
But also the outdoor seating is very much tied into a sit-down restaurant. They talk about a hostess podium, where clearly any kind of drive-through restaurant's not going to have that kind of sit-down atmosphere with a podium with a hostess.
Of course. I guess I would say that there isn't in our code that's why in the code it says only in condition to a full service sit down restaurant. There is no part in the code that says, drive-throughs are allowed to have outdoor dining. That's why you're here for the variance.
Right.
So like that's beyond itself in the sense that we are looking to just establish that hardship as to why in this specific case, outdoor dining is a necessity for the operation of this business and that no other alternative can be found to make it more in compliance with the code. I guess does that make sense?
It's more a necessity, for the pedestrian traffic. Obviously, anyone going through the drive-through only portion of the Starbucks isn't going to then get out of their car to sit at a table on the patio. So this outdoor dining is specifically geared to the pedestrian traffic and walk-up traffic to the store.
Okay. And I guess I just have, this is actually just a general question. In regards to the outdoor seating, and I'm just reading what was submitted to us, it made it sound like that the people sitting in their car would be considered as part of that outdoor seating. Is that true?
No. I
No?
don't think-
Okay.
That may have just been a poorly
bad
worded,
wording, okay.
yeah.
No, that's why I
Probably
wanted
should
to
have been
ask.
wordsmithed a little more
It's
if
okay.
that was not the intention.
Okay.
No, the only people that park there will go up to the walk-up
Of
window.
course.
But I think that's going to be more in larger orders that they don't want to do through their car window.
And I guess traffic concerns. So obviously this is one of the most, this is land development, so like you guys are kind of ahead of itself. But when we're talking about the outdoor seating, there's an expectation of people coming in, parking, getting out of their cars, walking around. I also assume with the increased pedestrian flow that you guys are expecting a lot of people walking through this lot, right? Yeah. So I guess in lines with the traffic and how busy this intersection is there any, and this is just the question I just had in general, is the two parking spots on the driving lane that are right in front of the entrance into the interior parking lot, is there any thought put into the problem of somebody blocking the interior parking lot, like pulling up too far and,
That's what the hatched area is for in the drive-through lane.
well, I mean,
And
I,
and we don't show cars stacked there. There will also be signage. Starbucks, if you've been through one, has a very extensive signage package.
yeah, well, I mean, I wish that people followed signs, but
Well,
well,
yes,
that was the case, then zoning wouldn't exist, right?
but in reality, the only cars that could block it would be the 15th car stacked up. It's not going to be a constant occurrence.
Okay. And this is built and designed to have cars coming in from Lansdowne and State.
Correct.
Okay. I do not have any further questions at this time.
No. Is there any,
So we'll have Ms. Farrell get the opportunity to redirect.
that's right.
I think we actually covered all of the redirect through the follow-up questions from the board members, so I think we're fine. Thank you.
Ms. Marcini, anything further?
Is there any public comment?
Ma'am, if you can.
I know.
state-
Lee Jordan, 90 Pilgrim Lane, Drexel Hill. This is my first rodeo.
We're going to have you sworn in as well.
Raise your hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. And did you get my name? Okay. So I'm going to start with my conclusion. I think the hardship to Upper Darby residents would be if Starbucks walked away from this opportunity. Right now, it's sitting as an eyesore. Okay, and we know Starbucks increases property value. We're always concerned about the traffic flow, but that's something you're going to address. And I think it's interesting. I've never heard the township ever take a stand on refusing something. It sounds like somebody's feelings were hurt in the process or something wasn't followed. That's very interesting, but that doesn't belong here because the township, I live in the township. So I don't think the township should be taking a stand on this. I mean, because nobody talked to me about it. And, so what I'd like to say, I hope that the board considers what they're asking. Anybody who lives here knows that it would be good for the children of coming out of the high school and for residents going in and out of the city at Starbucks. It's a good thing to have in our township, and I would really hate to see you walk away from this opportunity. And I think that if everybody sits at a table, I think everybody can get along in the sandbox and try to figure out what the differences are. Obviously, I'm missing some of them and move forward with this proposal.
Thank you. Any other public comment? You can state your name, please.
My name is Spiro Pappas. I live at 2423 Cedar Lane, Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania.
Can you spell your name for me, please?
Speropappas.
And if we can swear in, Mr.
Can you
Robbins.
raise your hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Go ahead.
My main concern is about the traffic. State Road's a pretty busy road. So they have a Dunkin' Donuts on Township Line Road in Havertown. And the traffic goes all the way out to Township Line Road and blocks one lane. What's the difference between your drive-through and their drive-through? Because State Road is a two-lane road there. And since you're only accommodating, sooner or later, the traffic's going to back up into State Road. That's the way I see it.
I'm not familiar with the other site, so I can't compare the two. As we said, we're providing 17 stacking spaces on the site for cars, where 5 are required. So we're far exceeding the requirement. In the end, we're going to need an approval from PennDOT for the driveway and the use. Regardless of what I say, what the township says, we're all going to be overruled by PennDOT.
Okay, what about environmental concerns? There's obviously gasoline tanks underneath there. So what are you going to do about that and everything like that?
So any building issues such as any remediation that's required on the site will be handled by the township through the land development process. And there's not particular relevance to the zoning relief for those issues.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pappas. Ms. Farrell, do you want to add any closing comments?
No, other than to say, I do want to thank the board. I know this was a little tricky and complicated in terms of some of the language under the ordinance. So I want to thank you for your time. And I do want to reiterate, I think you heard from, it was Ms. Jordan, I think, and you certainly heard from Wayne. This is a corner property that has had an abandoned gas station on it for many years now. The Starbucks is interested in moving forward here. It will only be moving forward as a drive-through only, no indoor seating. And I think as I summarized previously, whether the outdoor dining component is granted or not does not change the overall configuration of this site and Starbucks' intentions with respect to a drive-through only. So denying the outdoor seating doesn't mean they're going to come back with some different kind of a configuration. They've been very clear to us about that. So this is an opportunity, I think, to redevelop this site in a really meaningful and positive way. And by incorporating an awful lot of the details that the township has been asking us for, the pedestrian connectivity, the bike racks, the improved landscaping on site, the overall cleanup of the site. So I would just ask you to take that into consideration as well. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to split up each of the variances separately, and we'll vote on them that way. So in regards to Section 550-22D3, which is the outdoor dining, I would make a motion to approve that variance. Do I have a second? Okay.
Right, since there's no second, the motion fails, and it's the variance for section 22 or 550-22D3 is denied.
Secondly, I'm going to make a motion in regards to Section 550-33D22D. It's for the service loading area to be visible from the street. I would make a motion to approve that variance.
Seconded.
I guess all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then we have our final variance for 550-34G, again, with loading area visible to the public street. I would make a motion to grant that variance. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right, thank you. You'll receive a written decision within 45 days of this evening.
Look,
So we have 9-2 Rodney Jones.
Okay, so this is, we're going to move on to application 9-2 of 23, application of Rodney Jones for a variance from section 550-33A, table 8-1, to permit one off-street parking space where two are required. The property is situated at 139 Sherbrooke Boulevard in Upper Darby, PA. It's in the R3 Residential District and in the 7th Council District.
Are you Rodney?
No,
Is
Okay.
Rodney present this evening?
no, he couldn't make it. I'm here on behalf of him.
So are you an attorney?
No,
Okay, so if Mr. Jones is not here, we can't have someone represent Mr. Jones if you're not an attorney before the board.
well, I'm the one that lives at the property.
That's fine, but we can't, if you don't have, if you're not a co-owner of the,
Yeah. Yes,
do we have a copy of the deed? Was that submitted to the township? So are you Karen Jones?
No. But I'm Karima Jones, her daughter. I live in the house.
Yeah, so if you're not on the deed, what we can do is we can continue the hearing to the next meeting where the appropriate parties are present. Because we can't hear, again, you can't represent someone if you're not either an attorney or you are on the deed for the property.
Is Mr. Jones able to attend?
No, he's out of town.
Not
business.
tonight,
Yeah.
obviously, but if.
Next
for-
meeting.
Yeah,
For
he-
next month?
He just was out of town on business.
Sorry, that's what we have to do. We need to ensure that the person representing the application is the person who has standing unless they're represented by an attorney. So since you're not on the documentation as an owner of the property, we can't proceed with the application this evening, but we'll continue it to the zoning hearing board meeting on October 24th at 7 PM. And if Mr. Jones can come back with you, then we can hear the application.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to move on to application 9-3 of 23. Now,
Hold on. Was there any, I know, well.
Oh.
Never mind.
Now, for this application, there are several subsets of the application based on address. How do we want to read the addresses or just go off the agenda? I mean, I can certainly read
No,
them, but-
I think if we read the relief requested and note that the appropriate addresses were on the notice and the agenda this evening, well, that should suffice for
Okay.
the announcement this
So,
evening.
so for the requested relief, we have variance from section 550-37E2A to permit the top edge of a ground sign that is higher than 6 feet. A variance from 550-37G1B to allow the size of a freestanding ground or wall sign to exceed 16 square feet, and a variance from 550-37G1D to permit internal illumination where external white light illumination is permitted. And then, as previously discussed, this is for 11 properties that are owned by the school district and are provided in the agenda.
Before you begin, is there anyone present this evening who is requesting party status for this application? Okay, seeing none, the board for each of the 11 sub-applications will enter the following exhibits. ZHB1 will be the application packet, ZHB2 will be the notice photos, and ZHB3 will be the proofs of publication. And since there is no one taking party status, I'll turn it over to applicant's attorney for their presentation.
Yes, absolutely. My name is Jenna Kassman on behalf of the applicant. Sure, it's Kasman. Before we begin, I wanted to note on the agenda, there was missing 2 sections. This would be for 861 Bunting Lane. It was on the public notice, but it is for section 550-37.G2C and then section 550-37.G2D. It's
Address?
It's 861 Bunting Lane, Clifton Heights, PA.
That's the one in the Recreation District.
Yes.
Yes, we'll note that the agenda did not list the different section numbers for the same relief requested, same substantive relief requested because of that property is located in the Recreation District, while the other 10 properties are located in various residential districts. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. May I proceed by way of offer of proof, solicitor?
Yes, you have a
Okay.
witness here tonight to confirm the proof.
I do, yes,
then
great,
please
thank you.
proceed.
So I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Upper Darby School District. With me here tonight is Dave Martino from Martino Signs. Martino Signs drafted the application and prepared the sign plans that we'll be discussing tonight. Also here with me is Marvin Lee. He is the Director of Operations for Upper Darby School District. So in short, Upper Darby is looking to replace its existing static signs at 11 of its schools with new LED marquee signs, and this project will require some certain zoning relief. Some of the current static signs are internally illuminated signs and/or a sign that is greater than 16 square feet, comprising of existing nonconformities, which will be discussed in more detail later on. Some of the static signs require someone to come out and, manually change the messages, and some of the static signs can't change their messages at all. Again, I'll get into more detail on that. So the school district is looking to update its generally outdated signs. There are other school districts that now have or are also seeking to install similar LED signs for their schools, and Upper Darby is kind of following suit. I will go through the justifications for each sign tonight, but before I begin, are there any questions at this time?
No, you can proceed through the
Okay.
offer, and we can ask you some questions in the end. And if you don't mind, we'll interrupt you if there's something particularly.
I'm okay with that. Josh, I did provide you that USB port. I was going to put up the sign plan, so if anybody, wants to see it as we go along. I guess the most relevant one would be A15, but I will get to that, but if you want.
Is that in the packet as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I think we
Yes.
have it open too.
Sure.
So
I'm just going to give them the password if that's okay
Oh,
for the
sure.
thumb drive. Okay. All right, sorry for that brief interruption. Okay, so I will go through the exhibit. So Exhibit A1 is the sign permit application prepared by Martino Signs. Exhibit A2 is the Department of Licenses and Inspection letter in response to that sign permit application. Exhibit A3 is the zoning hearing board application of Upper Darby. That is the subject of tonight's hearing. And exhibits A4 through A14 is the parcel information for each school, showing that our Upper Darby is the owner of each property. So turning to exhibit A15, this is the exhibit showing the general sign specifications plan. This shows what the proposed LED marquee sign will look like for all 11 schools. The only items that will change are where you see school name and level school, that will reflect the appropriate school name, and those 4 zeros that you see that will have the address number. So I'll now review the location and justification for each sign. So turning to exhibit A16, that is the sign plan for Arnimic Elementary. And as you can see, the current sign for the school does not allow for the changing of school messages. The proposed LED marquee sign will be located along Vermont Road, a 7-foot, 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated not solely by white light is required for this property because it fronts upon 3 streets and is a large property, so motorists will need to quickly and efficiently locate the school and rate the sign. Also, applicant proposes to install the new LED sign where the current sign is located, and as you can see, there are trees nearby that current sign, so the size of the LED sign are needed so motorists passing by can read the messages, find the school. Turning to exhibit A17, this is the sign plan for Beverly Hills Middle School. The proposed marquee sign will be located near the corner of Sherbrooke Boulevard and Garrett Road. The current marquee sign consists of an internally illuminated sign that measures 41.2 square feet. As such, applicant requests that this sign be recognized as an existing non-conforming condition, and therefore no variance is required. In the alternative, applicant requests the applicable variances. A 7-foot, 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated and not solely illuminated by white light is required for this property because it fronts upon 2 streets. It's a large property, and applicant proposes to install the new LED marquee sign where the current static sign is located. So As you can see, it's at the corner of two streets, so motorists will, again, need to quickly and efficiently locate the school, read the sign at those busy cross streets. So the size of the sign is required for visibility and safety. Turning to Exhibit A18, this is the sign plan for Drexel Hill Middle School. The proposed marquee sign will be located on State Road. The current marquee sign for Drexel Hill Middle School consists of an internally illuminated sign that measures 33.5 square feet. As such, applicant requests that this sign be recognized as an existing nonconforming condition, and therefore no variance is required, but in the alternative, applicant requests the applicable variances. A 7-foot, 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated not solely by white light is required for this property because Drexel Hill Middle School fronts upon State Road, which is a fairly busy street, but also has an access point tucked away off of Kenwood Road, so you need to locate the school.
I think unless Bridget's okay, if you can slow down just a little
Oh,
bit.
absolutely. I'm so sorry
I don't
about
want her
that.
fingers to fall
No,
off. We
feel
need
free
one
to
more
stop
here.
me if you need to, or to slow down. So I left up at Kenwood Road. So additionally, applicant proposes to install the new LED sign where the current marquee sign is located, where the static sign is located. And as you can see, there's existing vegetation and nearby trees, so the size of the sign is needed for visibility and safety for motorists to quickly locate the school and read the sign. Turning to Exhibit A19, this is the sign plan for Primos Elementary. The proposed marquee sign will be located on Bunting Lane. The current marquee sign for Primos Elementary consists of an internally illuminated sign that measures 17 square feet. As such, applicant requests that this sign be recognized as an existing nonconforming condition and therefore no variance is required, but in the alternative, applicant requests the requested variances. A 7-foot, 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated, not solely by white light, is required for this property because it fronts upon two streets. It's a large property, and where you can see where the current static sign is, it's going to be a little bit off of Bunting Lane, so passerbys will need to, locate the school, yes, and read the messages. Exhibit 820 is the sign plan for Hillcrest Elementary School. The proposed marquee sign will be located on Bond Avenue. The current marquee sign for Hillcrest Elementary consists of an internally illuminated sign that measures 20 square feet. As such, applicant requests that this sign be recognized as an existing nonconforming condition and therefore no variance is required, but in the alternative, requests the applicable variances. A 7-foot, 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated, not solely by white light, is required for this property because it fronts upon 3 streets. It's a large property. Applicant also plans to install the new sign where the current static marquee sign is located. And as you can see from the upper left and right-hand photographs, there's existing trees near the current sign. So passerbys will need to efficiently locate the sign, locate the school, and read the messages. Exhibit A21 is the sign plan for Highland Park Elementary School. The proposed marquee sign will be located near the corner of Northland Boulevard and Westchester Pike. The current marquee sign for Highland Park consists of an internally illuminated sign that measures 21.25 square feet. As such, applicant requests that this sign be recognized as an existing nonconforming condition and therefore no variance is required, but in the alternative, applicant requests the applicable variances. A 7-foot, 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated not solely by white light is required for this property because it fronts upon 2 streets. It's a large property, and it's also going to be located at fairly busy cross street, so passerbys will need to locate the school, read the sign in a safe and efficient manner. Exhibit A22 is the sign plan for Westbrook Park Elementary School. The proposed marquee sign will be located on North Springfield Road. The current sign for West Park Elementary consists of an internally illuminated sign that measures 32 square feet. As such, applicant requests that the sign be recognized as an existing nonconforming condition, and therefore no variance is required, but in the alternative, requests the applicable variances. A 7-foot, 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated, not solely by white light, is required for this property because it fronts upon 2 streets. It's a large property. Also, applicant proposes to install the LED sign where the current static sign is located. As you can see, it's going to be located along North Springfield Road, but also kind of near Westbrook Drive. So drivers going through those intersections will need to be able to locate the school, read the sign efficiently and safely. Exhibit A23 is the sign plan for Bywood Elementary. And as you can see, well, as you will be able to see, there's no current sign that identifies the property. The proposed marquee sign will be located on Madera Road, a 7-foot 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated, not solely by white light, is required for this property because it fronts upon 4 streets. It's a large property. And because it fronts upon these 4 streets, the motorists, passerbys will need to be able to locate the school, be able to efficiently and safely read the sign. Exhibit A24 is the sign plan for Garrettford Elementary School. The proposed marquee sign will be located on Garrett Road. As you can see, the current sign cannot change its messages at all. A 7-foot 6-inch sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated not solely by white light is required for this property because it fronts upon 3 streets. It's a large property. An applicant is proposing to install it where the existing sign is located. And as you can see, there's some vegetation nearby. So motorists, passerbys will need to be able to read the sign, locate the school efficiently and safely. A25, we're in the home stretch, we're almost done. Exhibit A25 is the sign plan for Stonehurst Elementary School. The proposed marquee sign will be located on Timberlake Road. And as you can see, the current sign is not able to change its messages. A 7-foot 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated not solely by white light is required for this property because it fronts upon 3 streets. It's a large property. And again, as you can see, applicant will install the new sign where the current sign is located. There's existing vegetation nearby. So again, passerbys will need to be able to locate the school, read the messages safely but efficiently. Now, A26. This is the sign plan for the kindergarten center, and as you can see, the sign for the kindergarten center cannot change its messages at all. A 7-foot 6-inch tall sign measuring 32.3 square feet that is internally illuminated not solely by white light is required for this property because it fronts upon 3 streets. It's a large property, and applicant is proposing to install it at the exact same place where the current sign is located, which is on State Road, which is a fairly busy street and near existing trees and vegetation. So again, motorists will need to be able to quickly and efficiently locate the school and read the sign. So the size of the sign is required for visibility and safety. That is the end of all the sign plans. Thanks for bearing with me. At this time, I would like to call David Martino to adopt my testimony. Mr. Martino.
Mr. Martino, if you can state your name and then we'll have you sworn in.
Come over here.
You can just stand at the podium for this and go back and forth.
Okay. Hi, Dave Martino from Martino Sign Company.
Can you raise your hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Martino, were you present this evening during the testimony I presented regarding this application?
I was.
Do you agree with the information I presented this evening such that had you testified personally, you would have presented the same testimony?
I do.
Would you accept such testimony as your own?
Yes.
I have no further questions for Mr. Martino.
Are you doing any other confirming testimony? Or
No, just Mr. Martino.
Okay, so I guess it would be appropriate if the board had any questions on all 11 applications.
Yeah, so the only question that I have, and I think a lot of your pictures kind of depict it, I want to make sure that there's no sight distance issues for coming out of, an entrance. I think the closest one may be Beverly Hills Middle School, which kind of sits the most at a corner, but I do think it's elevated from the picture at least. I just wanted to make sure none of these signs will cause any sight distance issues as you come to an intersection.
All signs are set back far enough during PennDOT's rules for driving, so all drivability is not affected by the signs.
All right, thank you.
I just have like one general question. All of the other components of a digital sign, like the ordinance is being followed?
Yes.
Given like message, how long you
Yes.
can wait until the new
Yes.
message comes up, no animation, no, what do they call it? Bannering.
Scrolling text.
Yeah, thank you, scrolling text.
That's correct. There's preset messages that were set up by the school district that conform to all the rules and regulations of the school, of the zoning board.
Gotcha. All right, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Is there any public comment?
Good. Or you have no more testimony? Okay,
No.
sorry, just want to make sure.
Lee Jordan, 90 Pilgrim Lane, Drexel Hill. Do I need to do that with again? Okay, okay. I guess my question just is concerning the signs that are in what I would say densely populated areas, residential areas, Aronimink, Hillcrest, Bywood, Gariford, Stonehurst, and the K Center. So will the illumination be all night long, or does it get turned off at a certain time for like the residents? And were the residents that potentially could be affected by the lighting of the signs, were they made aware that this is happening? Did any notice go to any of the residents that live in direct contact of the signs?
So typically, this is just for comment, but I think it's
It's a legitimate question, I guess.
A question
Yeah.
that the board will ask
Yeah,
that it be
yeah.
respond to. As for notice, we'll let the school district address if they particularly talk to any neighbors in the area. For your reference, on the town, from the zoning hearing board perspective, the property is posted with an orange flyer on a stick or
Oh, in
posted
front
somewhere
of
else
all-
on the
Yellow.
property.
In front of
Or
all the
yellow? I'm
schools,
sorry.
so they knew this was,
So that they knew there was an
and
application
then,
pending.
and being, now, who's the question? Is it lit all night? Is that part of like our
Well,
signage?
We'll
Can
have
I-
the applicant.
Yeah,
and
I
their
was just
witness
curious. I
respond.
mean, just because a lot of these signs, as we know, our schools are in the middle of a lot of communities, especially around Mink, but, those areas. So that's my only question. Other than that, I think the signs look great, and I love the uniformity across the township with the signs, but that would be my only concern.
Could the applicant please respond to that question posed by Ms. Jordan?
I would also, if it's okay and appropriate, to also swear in Marvin Lee. He's the Director of Operations for Upper Darby. Would he be the better party to address that question?
I'll leave that up to you as
Okay.
to who you want to put
I would like to
testimony
call him
on
if that's all right at this time.
the record.
Do you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your name again, please?
Marvin Lee.
Mr. Lee, were you present during this evening's testimony that I presented regarding this application?
Yes, I was.
Do you agree with the information I presented this evening such that had you testified personally, you would have presented the same testimony?
Yes, I do.
Would you accept such testimony as your own?
Yes, I do.
And this is in response to.
So can you talk a little bit about the illumination of the signs as to whether they will be on all night? Will they be dimmed? Will the
Sure.
message be going all night? And also if you had any conversations with nearby property owners in the vicinity of all 11 schools as to the potential impact of the signs on the neighborhood?
Sure. Can we do a quick caucus outside before I answer the question?
Oh, sure. If you want to take a moment,
Step outside for
Yeah.
a brief moment?
sure, we'll take a quick pause.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you so much. I'm actually going to have Mr. Martino explain that since he is the operator, designer of the signs.
So the signs do remain lit 24 hours a day. One of the reasons the signs remain lit 24 hours a day because they are also a public notice signs. Should you have an Amber Alert, storm warning, or any kind of public emergency, it is a notice to the community. The signs are dimmable if necessary. That goes to a case-by-case basis. We keep them, when we set the signs up, we don't set them to the brightest possible condition. We set it at a medium level to what we feel is comfortable for the area. So each case by case, you know, in some areas we might want it a little brighter, some areas we want it a little dimmer, but they are dimmable, and we do not have any pointing, I believe, directly at anybody's, you know, house. So, yeah, the answer to your question is yes, they are lit 24 hours a day, as well as the existing signs are lit 24 hours a day.
Okay, thank you.
We have, are there any other, do you have any questions?
Sorry.
Go ahead. You can.
Good. Is there any other public comment? Mr. Pappas?
Why was 7 foot, why 7 foot? How come the signs have to be 7 feet tall? Why can't they stay at the same height that the pre-existing signs are? Why is that?
Yeah, sure. Pre-existing signs are of various sizes, and what we do is we use a standard size that is used at all schools. All school signs that we have been making for all schools, Marple, Radnor, some private schools as well, are 7 foot 6 inches tall. One of the reasons is 4-foot fences, shrubberies, and stuff of that nature. Also, car heights, it gives it a good visibility for everybody to see at any angle, you know, any distance, any angle. It's the optimal size for sight visibility. Also, some of the signs existing are at over 7 feet tall, so they are past the 6 foot range.
Not a Hillcrest or that's almost ground level,
Yes,
the
yes.
Hillcrest.
Like I
And
said, there's a variety of sizes on what we have existing.
I understand that,
So-
but I mean, 7 foot high for that school is pretty darn high. I mean, and the same thing with the middle school. I mean, you could pretty much see the sign, the pre-existing sign from the street. I mean, I really don't think you need a 7 foot high sign, you know, and that goes for the elementary school too. You know, I pretty much know where Truxtun Middle School is. I mean, it's a big school, and you pretty much know where the K Center is. It's right adjacent to the middle school right there, and you pretty much, and like Lee said, Hillcrest is a densely populated area, so I think we don't need a 7 foot sign there. I think a ground level sign, how the pre-existing sign is acceptable there.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Pappas.
So I was just making a quick check, just under the general restrictions and standards, the following restrictions are applied to all signs, all permitted signs. All external illuminated signs shall be turned off not later than 1 hour after closing of the business or facility which they identify or advertise. But if the closing time is after 1 a.m. or later, all illuminated signs shall be turned off at closing time. So I guess, is the school district aware of this requirement for all permitted signs?
I don't believe we were made aware of that particular section in the response letter.
Gotcha. All right.
I guess that condition could be odd because a school could, although the standard school hours could be whatever, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
And also,
you
if I
would have
may, to
night
take into account like late at night activities, you know, after school
Pool
curriculars, et
activities,
cetera, right? Yeah.
Football games, baseball
Right.
games.
I think the zoning officer asked which section we're referring to.
Oh,
just to-
I'm sorry. This is subsection 55037, C, C, sorry. 5, all external illuminated signs.
So this isn't internally.
Oh, internal. Oh, so sorry. Okay. I retract. So
Thank you.
Josh, question to you then. Section 6, no illuminated sign, doesn't clarify. Is there a definition on that?
No, it does not clarify.
Okay.
It's not a business, though. Just for interpretation purposes.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's up to you, Mr. Zoning Officer, but would you apply Section 6 to a school building sign? We don't have, I'm going to retract my question here. We don't need to decide that if we clearly can't make any judgment on that provision this evening anyway. So if, in the opinion of the zoning officer, when permits are applied for, there requires further relief, we'll be back here anyway, but we'll leave that question for another day.
And if I may, can you just remind me of that section for future reference?
550-37 C6.
Is it a business?
Well,
Yeah, I know.
we can't do anything about it tonight. It's not noticed, so.
I do believe schools fall under a different category than business.
Well, I don't want to get into it. We're going to put a lid on that right now.
Sounds good to me.
Any other questions from the board?
Any other public comment?
I don't know if the board has a need for a closing statement, but if you'd like to offer one, you're more than welcome to.
No closing statement, but I just want to note that I would like to move all the exhibits into evidence. I don't believe I did that already, so just
So
wanted to
moved.
note that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will, and again,
I'm going to suggest we make a motion. We can refer them as application A through K on
Okay.
each application. If there's a motion and a second, we'll consider that approved and move through them.
okay. So I will make a motion for application 9-3 of 23A,
Second.
a motion for 9-B, okay, B,
Second.
C,
Second.
D,
Second.
E,
Second.
F,
Second.
G,
Second.
H,
Second.
I,
Second.
J,
Second.
and K.
Second.
Okay, motions.
Thank you.
You'll receive a packet of decisions within 45 days.
Wonderful. I look forward to it.
We will move on to our final hearing for the night. Application 9-4 of 23, application of Nakia, Maine, for a special exception pursuant section 550-21C5 to permit a tobacco store / smoke shop. Sorry. The property is situated at 4308 Township Line Road in Drexel Hill, PA. It's in the C1 Commercial District and in the 3rd Council District.
All right, before we begin, are there any persons requesting party status for this application?
Thank you. Colleen Marcini for Upper Darby Township. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marcini. We'll note that the township is taking its statutory party status for this application. Any further party status on this application? Seeing none, the board will enter the following exhibits. ZHB 1 will be the application packet, ZHB 2 will be the notice photos, and ZHB 3 will be the proof of publication. I see Mr. Miller is here on behalf of the applicant, and I will turn it over to him to proceed with his case in chief.
Thank you. My name is Charles Miller. I'm here on behalf of my partner, Don Petroza, who had a late commitment, who couldn't be here today. I do have a packet of exhibits, if I could pass those up to the board and to the other council.
Please. Thank you.
If I may, just briefly, by way of introduction, we represent Nikhil Mani. That is Nikhilmanne. This property is located at 4308 Township Line Road, Drexel Hill in Upper Darby. It is in a 5-unit strip shopping center. It's housed, this particular unit formerly housed the Town Cleaners and Tailors business. That shopping center has, by my count, 29 parking spaces in front, inside, and in the rear. It is located in the C1 Traditional Neighborhood Commercial District. We are here before you this evening requesting a special exception under 550-21C5. And with that, I would call my client, Mr. Mane. Would you like him to sit here?
Why don't we have you sit over on the side here and just make sure you turn the microphone on and pull it close, and we'll have you sworn in.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
If I may?
You can sit, but just make sure you pull the microphone close.
And sir, I put a packet of the exhibits in front of you. Just to, I believe it's already been entered into evidence, but A1, which has been labeled A1, are pictures of the posting of the property. You posted that property, is that correct? Yes. And those are the pictures that you took? Yes. And A2 is an owner authorization. Is that the letter that the owner of the property provided you, giving you permission to proceed before the board this evening?
Mr. Ment, can you hit the button below the light? Is it on now?
Yes.
That's better. Thank you.
And A3, is that a redacted copy of the lease that you have for this property?
Yes.
Okay. Sir, you are before the board this evening requesting to use this particular unit as a, what's determined or defined as a smoke or tobacco shop, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you currently, or have you ever, or do you currently own or operate other tobacco shops?
Yes, I do.
And are you doing that currently?
Yes.
Okay. With respect to this particular shop, you heard me describe the property. Is that a fair and accurate representation of the property that I described, being in a shopping center, one of the units in a shopping center?
Just right.
And that's the end unit at that shopping center, is that correct?
Yes, that's end unit.
Okay. And the other businesses in that shopping center, there's a barber shop, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yes,
or
yes,
no?
sir.
And there's a pizza shop, is that correct?
Yes.
And what else is in there?
It's a nail salon.
Nail salon?
Yes.
Okay. Now, will you be operating this smoke shop between the hours of 9 p.m. and 10 a.m.?
Yes.
You will?
No,
Okay. What were the hours of operation be approximately?
10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay. Do you intend to make any exterior changes to the space other than signage?
No.
And have you taken any steps to investigate whether there are any existing smoke shops within 500 feet of this location?
It's more than 500 feet.
So there are no, are there any smoke shops within 500 feet of this
No,
location?
no.
Okay, if you could turn to Exhibit A4 of the packet, there is a map with a 500-foot circle radius. Did you have our office prepare that map?
Yes.
Okay, and does that map show a 500-foot radius of the area in and around your, this store?
Yes.
Okay, and does it, and are there any smoke shops in that circle area? No?
No.
Okay. And if you could look at Exhibit A5, is that a map that you had our office prepare? Googling smoke shops within the area of the 4308 Township Line Road property?
Yes.
And does it show the smoke shop, the SVS smoke shop, is that within 500 feet of your shop?
No.
Okay. And then I guess the Drexel Vapes and Tobacco is also listed as, with a pin A. Is that within 500 feet of the shop?
No.
Okay. Can you, will you be selling alcohol at the store?
No.
Okay. Will you permit the use of tobacco products that you'll be selling to be used within the store?
No. Just only buy and leave.
What's that?
They purchase and they leave.
Purchase and they leave. Okay. So what actions do you take to make sure that people are not using the tobacco products in the store? What do you do?
We make sure we have enough signs for like 21 to enter the store. And we check the proper IDs of the customers.
Okay, so for selling the products, You will not be selling the product, you'll only be selling the products to persons who are of age to be able to purchase those products?
Yes.
Can you describe to the board what products, other than tobacco products, you'll be selling, if any?
We're gonna have a candies, convenience store stuff too,
Okay.
sodas,
Right, sodas?
Yeah.
Water, sodas?
yeah,
Some convenience store items?
convenience store.
Okay. And this property is on the end of the shopping center, correct?
Yes,
And there's an existing fence between you and the neighboring property, is that
yes,
correct?
there is a fence.
And are there also trees, correct?
Yes, yes.
Given your experience in operating smoke and tobacco shops, do you think your store at this location will have any negative impact on the traffic or parking at this location?
No,
And given your experience owning and operating tobacco and smoke shops, do you believe that the proposed store at this location will have any negative impact upon the neighborhood?
no.
And you talked about, you mentioned briefly that your customers are in and out. Can you describe that to the board, what the typical customer, how they purchase products in the store?
I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat the question again?
Say again?
Can you repeat the question?
Can you describe to the board how your customers typically, when they come into the store, what the normal customary practice is for them purchasing products at your store?
Yeah, like when the customer come in the store, we ask for the IDs and make sure they are enough age to buy the products. And we serve them, they leave the store, that's it.
Right, okay. Is there any space, are you providing any space in or outside the store for people to smoke or
No,
sit down
no.
and smoke or use the products?
No, not at all.
I don't have anything further for this.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Marcini?
Thank you so much. Please, sir, my name's Colleen Marcini. You do have another store, don't you, on Garrett Road?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you operated that store?
How long is that?
How long have you been there?
It's been 3 years.
Okay. Now, do you ID the individuals when they come in or only when they make the purchase?
We want to make sure, but they're enough age to come inside the store first.
So that you card them or you take their ID when they come into the store?
Yeah, we ask them, can I see your ID?
Okay, and this is also done?
If we feel like he's not enough age, if he's like older, like more, we look like more than 50, 60 years old, we're not going to ask him. But he look young, we're going to ask him, make sure that he's enough age to enter the store.
Okay. Now, you say your tobacco products. What kind of tobacco products are you talking about? Just cigarettes or what else are you selling?
Cigarettes and the leaves, tobacco leaves, and accessories, tobacco accessories.
What was that last sentence? Excuse me.
Tobacco accessories.
So you're talking about vaping?
Yeah, vaping. So
You're selling, so vaping, you also probably would sell cigars?
cigars.
Would you
Yes.
also sell like hookahs
Hookahs,
and pipes?
hookah flavors.
And that's going to be the majority of what you're going to be selling in your store?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you indicated signage. You said that you do intend to have signage in front of this property?
Yes.
Would it be the signage similar to the one that you have on your Garrett Road property?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to show you, may I approach? I only have one picture, but I'll bring this to you. See if this accurately reflects. This is just a picture of the Garrett Road. The signage. See if it's the same one as you have. Okay, I'm going to approach. I'm going to show you a picture and tell me if this looks like your Garrett Road store.
Yes, it's the one. But we have new signage right now there.
Okay,
We-
but would it be the similar signage as you would put in?
Similar,
your store? Okay.
yes.
And you have that little flag there too? that says
No,
smoke?
no flags.
Do you have the flag on the Garrett Road property?
Not right now.
Okay.
When this was a flag, because when we open the store, we need to put for a couple of weeks to people to know this new store coming up. After that, we take it off.
So would you put this flag up on the Township Line store?
If township permitted, I can do for a couple of weeks. If not, it's fine too.
Now, sir, I'm going to address your attention to the parking.
Ms. Marcini, can
Can
we
we
see
see
the photograph, please?
I didn't move it into evidence yet, guys. You wanna take that first?
I have no
as lo-
objection to them seeing it.
That makes it easier. Thank you, Mr. Miller. No, it's okay.
I just
Get
need
it
to
in the
make
puddle.
that, what?
We'll mark it as T1.
T1, thank you. Okay, sir, now, if I could address the parking, you did draw a picture which is attached to your application,
Yes, ma'am.
and you drew the parking spots in there, and you would agree with me, I guess what you drew here was probably 25 parking spots, would that be roughly correct? You put parking on the side and in the back?
Yes.
Okay, now, the rear parking, does the rear parking have access to your store?
No.
So the person parking in the rear's got to go all the way around to the front to get in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now you also would agree with me that to have this, you are required to That's okay, I lost my spot anyway. The parking, okay. All right, now, you know the ordinance requires you to have one off-street parking for each 200 feet of floor area, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that requires you to have 11.5 parking spaces, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
But
now, ahead.
sorry, the space, we are not using the whole space because the space is too much for us. We are just gonna use probably 1,200 square foot in the store.
You're not going to use the whole store?
Yeah, we just a very big place for us to use it, so we're gonna only use partially of it.
Oh, well, your picture that you sent and attached into your word does not indicate that you're not using any portion of the store.
Yeah, the backside portion we left over, we're not using for nothing. The backside, all the way to the back.
Well, your application has a certain footage, so you're saying me, you're going to use less. Okay, so you would at least need 10 parking spaces, agreed?
Yeah,
Okay, and you would agree with me that the whole parking lot only has 25, correct?
yeah.
And the parking required for all those stores is 47, right?
Like previously,
If he knows, I don't know
If you know.
no, previously there was a dry cleaning store, so they already were using the same parking lot. It was permitted there, so obviously I was thinking that our business is the same as dry cleaning. They come in and out. There is no like wait time or they sit there for waiting anything. They just come, go. So I was expecting, as a dry cleaning as a permitted previous store, so this is the same store too.
Well, okay. So you don't have enough parking for your business?
That's more than enough for my business, I'm thinking,
Well, except
because
the ordinance requires you to have one spot for 200 feet of gross floor space, and you do not have sufficient parking for your business.
Objection, there's 29 spaces there.
There's also 5 stores.
Yeah.
Can we ask for a moment of clarification from the zoning officer to inform the board? What is the current or previous use of this unit?
Previously, it was used as a
dry cleaners.
laundromat cleaners,
250.
which would be 250. This is dropping down now to 200, so there would be an increase in spaces.
Is this shopping center conforming as to parking now?
My guess would be no. Based off of estimates, it's probably under the current.
Do we calculate parking for shopping centers on an individual unit basis or on the shopping center as a whole?
We've done an individual unit.
Thank
So
you.
each one would have to have.
Ms. Marcini, you can proceed.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I'll go to another area then. I think we've covered that. Now, I note in your, you intend to make certain modifications to the interior of your store, correct?
No, actually, the interior is already ready. It's an open shell. We're not gonna do any modification. We're gonna just bring in the display boxes,
Okay.
just furnitures, the fixable ones.
Okay. So I didn't see on your plans, what are your plans for ventilation?
I think there's already ventilations in the space.
Okay, so you have no testimony or evidence as to the adequate ventilation for the occupied space, correct?
Not right now, yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I do note that this property, and I'll show you, I think this is an accurate picture of the property. This is the front. I think you have the same picture, but a different angle. I'm going to show you, this is a different angle of your property. Does this look like the property that will be in that you hope to be your store?
Yes, this one.
Yeah, okay, this one on here.
Yes.
All right. And I'm showing you what's to the right of your property. Thank you. So I'm going to ask you, sir, what are your plans for for a buffer, a privacy fence, or other sound or visible barrier between you and the apartments that are right next door?
Already there is a fence available. If township permit me, whatever advise me to do the buffering, any advice, I can do the township,
Well,
as
you
per the
wouldn't
township.
have, I'm sorry, did you finish your sentence? I'm sorry.
Yeah, as per the township, if they want more buffering between both, I can do a fence or more fence or buffering.
Well, the burden's not on the township, and it's actually not your property.
Objection. That's not a question.
I didn't finish it. Didn't ask it yet.
waited after she stopped.
I didn't, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So you're saying, so you actually have no plans, or you have presented no plans for a privacy fence, a sound or visual barrier adequate to screen adjacent residential properties from any activities on the premises? You have no plans that you presented to this board tonight for that, correct?
Yeah, I was expecting that fence is gonna be enough. If we are talking like, if township want more, like a barrier, anything, we can always provide that one.
So you're relying upon the metal fence that is currently there?
Yeah, as per they ask for the fence, so I was thinking that the fence gonna be enough. But if they want more, I can do it more, like a barrier or anything in between.
From your experience, how many customers do you have on an average daily basis?
30 to 40.
Do they tend to come more frequently in certain times of the day?
I can't expect that.
If you know.
If you know, excuse me, if you know.
No.
So 30 to 40, that would be 30 or 40 vehicles, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, have you done any sort of traffic study to determine how these cars are going to come into this particular lot and out?
From the township line road,
Yes,
they can in and there is an out the same loan, the same township line road.
okay.
And also the Drexel Ave, there also one more entrance is there on the Drexel Ave too.
Okay, I understand that. Just so I'm clear, because I want to follow up, I'm almost done. You have no ventilation plans, you have no buffer plan, and you have no traffic study, correct?
Yeah, traffic study we have like about like entrance and exit you're talking about?
The amount of cars that are going to come in, how they're going to park, and how they're going to go out.
Yeah, on the township line road, there is one entry and one is exit.
Okay.
And from the Drexel Ave, there is one more entry and one more exit on that too.
Okay, I have nothing further, thank you.
If I could redirect or the board, whatever your pleasure. I have a couple questions to follow.
You can redirect.
Thank
first.
you. Sir, if the zoning hearing board required you to add screening or some sort of other vegetative plantings, would you be willing to do that, subject to the approval by the owner and authorization by your owner?
Yes, absolutely.
And you indicated there's no smoking on this in your store, correct?
No, absolutely not.
So given that, do you feel the ventilation in the store, whatever it is appropriate?
There is no, we don't need it actually, ventilation.
That's what I was getting
Yeah,
at.
we don't need it in the store.
And given your experience and use and operating and owning tobacco shops, with the 29 spots that are available at the property, do you think that's sufficient for your expected amount of customers?
Yes,
Do you feel that the amount or the usage of the property with respect to customers coming in and out would
Yes.
be any different than a dry cleaning business?
same thing. And hopefully dry cleaning business, they stay more to wait to see the clothes and stuff. Here is gonna be coming, buying and leaving.
So given your experience, is the time in which the individuals are in the store, do you think that that's comparable to a dry cleaning business?
Yeah.
I don't have anything further.
Any recross? Okay, we'll do board questions then.
Everything actually has kind of been answered. I guess I just wanted to ask a couple of reiterating questions. So obviously, we talked about the visual barrier. There's no fence on the property. Have you looked at any other properties throughout the township for this business?
I'm sorry, come again. Can you repeat the question
Sorry.
again?
Have you looked at any other properties for this business?
Any
No,
other locations?
no.
Locations? No, okay, so just this one? Okay. I guess in regards to, so regarding to the special exception, we're required to go through the different conditions of the special exception and see if we can meet each one of those requirements in order to grant this variance. We've touched on the visual barrier. The concern I have, and I guess my question to you is, and I think you had addressed it, you said you didn't have any plans whatsoever to apply, like any type of visual barrier blocking, the business of inside the property?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, is there any public comment? Or I guess, do you have any other witnesses?
I don't have any other questions, but I would move the documents, the exhibit packet into.
So moved.
Thank you.
I think there's an ordinance, how many things you have to sell for it to be a smoke shop, isn't there? Is that, are you gonna be selling 20% product in there? Of sodas and stuff like that?
Yes.
What kind of vaping products are you gonna be selling? Are they gonna be, is it gonna be,
Mr. Pappas?
Yeah, so you're not a party, so parties can provide, you're not a party.
Oh.
So you're just providing public comment. You can't question the witness.
I'm
But you
sorry.
can present whatever you feel, or not present, but you can say
Well,
what you.
okay, I'm really against smoke shops. They sell these vaping products that are harmful to kids and harmful to adults. Kratom, CBD, stuff like that. CBD, kratom is a safety issue. It provides, has side effects. It's dizziness. It's harmful to your health. There's also, it's a mood enhancer, pain reliever, energy booster. I mean, these kids are already taking the energy drinks. How much more stuff do we need? You know, how much more product do we need for these, over 18 products? I mean, they're already harmful. And plus, the pipe, I'm not concerned about the pipes that they're going to be selling too. I mean, it leads to to me, it's drug paraphernalia. Okay, so, I mean, they're in there, and the rolling papers also, it leads to drug paraphernalia. So I'm a little concerned about that. That's what I'm making, and the vaping products that they'll be selling also. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Pappas. Ms. Jordan, I saw you getting up.
Lee Jordan, 90 Pilgrim Lane, Drexel Hill. Just bear with me. I'm just going to read through a list. 69th Street Smoke Shop, 240 South 69th Street. Frolic Upper Darby Tobacco Shop, 8901 Westchester Pike. Smoke Shop, 782 Garrett Road. Alpha Smokes, 8813 Westchester Pike. Dream Smoke Shop, 6421 Market Street. Terminal Tobacco Outlet, 6840 Market Street. Drexel Vapes and Tobacco, which is located at 4304 Woodland Avenue and Drexel Hill. BCS Smoke Shop, 3720 Garrett Road, Drexel Hill. SVS Smoke Shop, 3014 Township Line Road, Drexel Hill. Puff and Stuff, 522 Burma Road, Drexel Hill. JZ Smoke and Electronics, 6505 Market Street. Super Grocery and Smoke Shop, 7300 Marshall Road. Cigars and Eats, 6441 Market Street. 69 Smoke and Convenience Store, 1 Street, 69th Street. Smoker Zone LLC, 7409 Westchester Pike. Zaza Smoke Shop, 2213 State Road, Drexel Hill. Liberty Drexel Hill Gas and Smoke Shop, 4512 State Road. I think you get my point. Right now, we have 18 smoke shops in Upper Darby Township. I am asking the zoning board this evening to deny this application. Also, right across the street, less than 500 feet away in Haverford Township is an American Treatment Network, which is an addiction facility. We care about the youth in Upper Darby Township. We do cleanups outside to pick up trash. We don't want to trash up their lungs anymore and provide another smoke shop. I think we're overloaded with enough of them. So I'm asking you this evening to please deny this application.
Sir, were you rising for public comment?
Brian Andrusco, 915 Harper Avenue. ANDRUSZKO. Ms. Jordan just hit on pretty much all the points I had tonight. There's so many smoke shops within the township, especially within a close proximity to it. The one thing I just wanted to add as well is I believe was the parking spots to 25. I'm sure Mr. McIntyre, I'm sorry, 29. As you know, living close by, it's a very crowded parking lot, and I'm not sure if it's actually permitted, but I know on the side of the Celebrity Nails, it says parking for Celebrity Nails only. I don't know if that's a permitted use actually by them, or if that's just something they put up to deter people parking there, but I can tell you parking there is going to be an issue in Drexel Ave right there. I'm a councilman for the township. I just worked to get signs put in on the corner there to prevent parking from 30 feet from the curb on Dermont Avenue and on Drexel Avenue. So there's really no street parking there. I just advising, please vote against this tonight. So thank you.
Do you have any closing?
Yes, I do,
remarks? Okay.
if the board may. So a couple of things have been raised, and, one of which by the councilman, this is a legislative determination. The township's made a determination essentially saying this is a permitted use, but we don't want them within 500 feet. It's not within 500 feet. It meets the qualifications there. So if there's some sort of other concern, perhaps that needs to be addressed in that fashion, which is the proper mechanism by which it is. The township has determined that this is a permitted use subject to these special exceptions and additional considerations, which I'll address. So some of those things, as you can guess, are the limitation of the operation of the hours. My client has indicated that he would meet those. Not selling alcohol, they would meet those. The issue with respect to the screening, that particular provision says, requires a visual barrier adequate to screen adjacent residential properties from any activities on the premises. Okay, so people going, I guess, coming in and out of the property to the satisfaction of the zoning hearing board. My client has indicated he is willing to do that to the satisfaction of the zoning hearing board. The township has put that into your hands to say, hey, we can approve this special exception subject to visual screening. So I would ask if that's a consideration of the board, if that's a concern of the board, that I would ask you to put that in your hands and do that. My client has said he's willing to do that. I don't know if the owner would allow that, but if the owner allows it, this gentleman's willing to do that. With respect to the parking, the issue there is, I think my client has testified, the existing use is a town and cleaners. That's 250, one space for every 250 square feet of space. So essentially what you're asking is the difference between 12 spaces and 10 spaces. There's 29 spaces for 5 units here. When you take a look at actually how the property is going to be used, I would suggest it's actually even less than what's going to be people coming in and dropping off dry cleaning over the course of a day. Those people are in and out just like this is going to be. And so, with respect to if it's an existing nonconformity, there's 5 units, there's plenty of parking, there's parking around back. These things, I would suggest that it's the exact same use as it has been and will always be. So I would suggest, the board take that into consideration when making a determination. The other factor, the ventilation was brought up. Again, if you look at that particular provision in the code, it says there shall be adequate ventilation for occupied spaces. So it's adequate ventilation. That's only, that contemplates that it's a smoke shop where they're smoking in the premises. That's not going on here. So that provision doesn't really have any application to this. So I would suggest that for that particular provision of the code and requirement by the board, that you could take that into consideration, that there is adequate ventilation, because they're not doing that. When we talk about the impacts, obviously with respect to the screening, I would suggest my client has agreed to do what the board thinks is appropriate. But what we're really talking about is it's a store where people are coming in and out. They're not using the product. They're not going to be loitering around. There's no space for them to be sitting outside and parking. If you've seen the property, there's a pizza shop. There's other things that are there. It's just your typical store. The comments about vaping and these things are bad and harmful. I mean, we can get into a long discussion about those types of things and whether that's is there a difference between tobacco and vaping, and I would suggest that one, the board, that's not really a consideration of the board, but two, it's really, there is no impact. This gentleman is taking the precautions necessary to make sure that kids aren't doing it, explain the process. That's not going to be a consideration. It's really just a consideration of those other things that I've already highlighted to you, that I would ask that the board has that discretion and would ask that you approve the special exception based upon the testimony, based upon the proposed use, and how this gentleman has used property and will use property and has been an individual who's been in the township, who has conducted himself in a manner and will continue to do that.
Mr. Miller, I have a question for you. You're representing that the third prong of the objective criteria for approval of the special exception, where it states to the satisfaction of the zoning hearing board, is that it seems like you're burden shifting on the zoning hearing board to set the standard for screening of residentially zoned properties in 300 feet. Is it not more accurate to say that the zoning board is the final arbiter as to whether the screening your client is presenting is adequate to screen, as opposed to the other way around?
Well,
it is your burden to prove that you meet the criteria, correct?
It is our burden. I would suggest that, given that there's screening, there's fencing already there, there's trees already there, really what you're looking at is the front of a store, of people going in and out of a store. He's willing to put, bushes along the line if he's allowed to do that. But what are we really protecting? It's people going in and out of a store. There's no different than a dry cleaner. So, I mean, it is our burden. I would suggest it's adequate. If the zoning hearing board feels as though there should be some sort of visual screen that comes as far as it can out, that my client would consider doing that if he's allowed to do that. I don't know if he's allowed to do it, but the screen doesn't provide anything different than what is already there. There's no visual impact other than the word smoke. That's really it.
And just to confirm, your client hasn't explored with the landlord the ability to add any screening to this property as of tonight?
I would ask him. I don't know that.
Yes, I talked to him already. He said whatever requirement, we'll do it.
Okay. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you. Just very briefly, there's very few requirements we have in this ordinance. The ordinance requires parking, which you've demonstrated he cannot adhere to. It's 1 per 200. He cannot adhere to that. It doesn't say, it must include a planted buffer privacy fence. Must include, not an option. No testimony about that. And it does say it must have adequate ventilation. It doesn't say anything about smoking. Must have adequate ventilation. There's just very few things that are required in this ordinance, and he's met none of them. Thank you.
Actually, can I talk?
Well,
I would like to make a comment on this. So when looking at the ordinance, and we're looking at, 55021C special exception, subsection 5C, everything that has been kind of already covered by a lot of testimony, but I think there have been a couple important details that I think need to be addressed. Speaking on one, when we're talking about under our zoning code 55039 fences and our fence code, no fences may be obstructed, erected, or maintained so that traffic from intersecting streets, driveways, or alleys will be obstructed from view, thereby endangering the public safety and welfare. The opening to the parking lot is directly in front of this business. We are talking about a state highway here, and that in order to be in compliance with the current zoning code, that you would have to erect a fence that would block the sight lines, that would endanger people coming in and out of this parking lot, making it unsuitable.
You're talking about a fence that goes up to the street line?
In order to obscure, to visually screen, any type of visual screening would obstruct the view of the people that are parking in front. So you'd either have to remove that parking spot altogether, which would then make you even less in compliance with the parking, or have that person park there, but then if anyone is pulling out, they can't see around that fence.
You mean in front of the
That
store?
brings up a contradiction in the code. I think that's why you kind of have it where the zoning hearing board can make that decision. I would say if you put a condition on it that they do erect a fence, it cannot be visually obstructing the parking area, which would meet the code and would still meet the satisfaction of the ordinance, because you would have a privacy fence at the portion where it's not obstructing the entrance to the road. So,
Well, I guess my question would then be the interpretation of the zoning code in order to make sure that we're taking the most conservative interpretation of it. I mean, I think there were only 3 conditions implied in this ordinance, in ordinance number 3106. The intent is spelled out by council as to what the intent of council was
So
when they passed this.
so would the applicant be willing to continue the hearing and bring back a plan that shows the proper required fencing or screening for the property?
I've talked to him, but I'd recommend that,
You want to can we just take a minute real quick and you can talk to your client?
Sure.
Do you want to do executive?
client open to a continuance for the purpose of presenting additional evidence as to whether the applicant can satisfy the screening condition to the zoning hearing board's satisfaction?
They are open to that. I mean, obviously, they have to explore that. I mean, again, I'm submitting that it is adequate because you're screening from activities of people going in and out, not smoking, which is what this contemplates. But given the board's comments, my client's willing to see what that would be to screen people from coming in and out of a store.
So we have two options at this juncture. One is we'll vote tonight,
Right.
or we'll continue to take additional evidence in that limited topic of additional screening.
My client indicated he's willing to come back and explore additional screening, what can be done.
And Ms. Marcini, I'm assuming there's no objection to the board's request for that continuance? Okay, is there any objection from the board?
No.
No.
Okay, then we'll continue this to, is the October meeting sufficient to come back?
Yeah, you can come back in October.
Yes.
You want to, did you need to check your calendar?
I should do that before I open my mouth. See, that's why you're a learned counsel right there. Okay, that would be the 24th, is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And did you count 9-2? Okay, well, it'll
We've
be
had
what
worse.
it will be.
Yeah.
We'll continue this to October 24th at 7 PM in council chambers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it for all of our applications. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.